Let's investigate one business process every company knows: onboarding. Like many HR processes, onboarding new colleagues consists of many, often highly regulated steps, which means there is a lot of potential for workflow automation here. We will look at an implementation of an onboarding process where the workflow models the process in a way that saves time and also ensures compliance at the same time. Our HR team provides internal services for a whole number of requests, so onboarding as well starts as a request in our Jira service project. To get started, we need to supply some information about our new employee, from when he starts, where he'll work, what role he'll fill as manager, and what hardware he will need to actually fulfill his role. Let's take a closer look at our new request. Based on the info we provided, specifically the name, our JWT function automatically filled in the email field with the company email of the new employee. We will take a closer look at the configuration here later, as it is a nice example of the power of recombining field values. In addition, the onboarding HR group was added as watchers to the issue, and they were informed by the request via a custom email, all done through workflow functions. As you can see here at the bottom, the whole demo is explained via comments, also added with JWT, but that's not really part of the onboarding process itself, but more of the demo experience. Now we will start onboarding Ryan. When moving the issue to in progress, several issues are created for the IT team and linked to this onboarding ticket, as we can see happening down here in real time. This is because the IT team is in charge of creating users and ordering hardware. The hardware tickets are created based on the hardware we chose when creating this HR request. An example of JWT's flexibility. As long as all this work of the IT team isn't done, we cannot progress with onboarding Ryan, so we are using a workflow condition to block the issue from being transitioned any further. So let's take a look at one of those IT issues, specifically the one to create a user in the system. As you can see, both the summary and the description were filled automatically, and several fields were taken over from the HR issue, specifically the email. When we start progress on this issue, we get another check on the email. As the email is crucially important for the next step, we included a validator here that ensures with a custom error message that the email is required in this step. So better not touch anything, and we proceed. The email is absolutely crucial because we run, using JWT, a background check on whether a user with that email already exists in the instance. In our case, that's not the case, because the user check is valid and we can proceed. Otherwise, we would have to change the email and try again. The next transition is found on the Actions menu. You might have thought that only manually triggered automation rules show up in this menu, but if your workflow includes a transition that goes from a status to itself, those transitions also appear in the action menu. And because those transitions are part of a workflow, you can combine them with conditions, validators, and transition screens, which means you can kind of create manual automations that use the transition screen for additional input, or that only specific people are allowed to use. Our create user transition uses one of our most powerful post functions, the execute remote action, to connect to the Jira API and invite the user with that email to this Jira instance. We can see it worked because we get the whole API response, but specifically the account ID back, which we extract out of this response into a single field. You can use this post function to connect to any API out there, and it's also not necessary to always save the whole response. This is just for demonstration purposes. We provide some templates, for example, to create a page in Confluence, but you can configure the execute remote action for any publicly reachable API, be it Jira, Confluence, DeepL, HubSpot, JWT, you name it. We're done creating the user, so let's close the issue and get back to our onboarding issue. For simplicity, the other IT issues are getting closed automatically in the background. This is another point where JWT is a bit more powerful than automation in case of branching. With JWT, you can go multiple steps while branching. For example, in this case, access the linked issues of linked issues without having to rely on nested automation rule, because automation branching really only allows one-step branching. As we can see, we are still blocked from closing the issue by a condition. That's because there is a last step missing. We have an internal template for a Trello board guiding new people through their first weeks and months, and we want to create that for Ryan. This again uses the execute remote action to contact, in this case, the Trello API. While we save the whole response again, as an example, in this case as well, we can easily extract information from this response, in this case, the link to the Trello board, to save and share it with Ryan. And with that, we're done. We have set Ryan's email, invited him to Jira, and created the onboarding Trello, all mostly automatically and without ever leaving the Jira issues. We kept the whole process short to fit into this demo, but I hope it's clear how a process as a whole can be nicely represented with your workflows.